What if I told you that you could live in a 24 rocket bunker whose upkeep is only 2,500 metal frags a day and has an insane amount of free space inside? And what if I told you that you could live above this bunker in a fortress in the sky that automatically pumps loot down into your bunker when you start getting raided? And what if I told you that all you need for this is a god rock? Hey, what's up guys? It's Jazzy here. Today we're going to be talking about how you can build an insane new base using the god rock in Rust. There's two portions to this base, one underneath the rock and another on top of it. We're going to start with the portion underneath. This base can take some time to build out, and god rocks aren't super common, but you can lock down your build location using a raised triangle foundation and two walls on the outside to act as a TC bunker that you can open with a single triangle roof. This is a cheap and convenient way to lock down a build location, especially really early into the wipe. You want to make sure the foundation is high enough that the walls go all the way up to where the rock starts and that you can't really see the TC from around the side. Now when I want to open it, all I need is a single triangle roof and I can get at my TC. Breaking the roof closes it again, and with that we can get on to building the rest of the base. We can start by building triangle foundations along the walls towards each of the openings. Do your best to build along the walls, but if you need to build out and around a little bit, it's not the end of the world, especially at this stage. As you're approaching the back opening, make sure your foundations are high. This is the side that's going to get completely sealed off, so high foundations will make that cheaper. We want to make sure that we're able to seal off this opening with honeycomb that's only 2 walls high. That will keep things inexpensive as we continue to add layers in the future. Again, don't worry too much about where you're starting these walls, because at the end of the day we can just go around to the other side and add layers there if we'd like to in the future. With just a few foundations and walls, we're completely sealed off on this side. So now we can go take a look at the other opening that's going to act as our door path. Again, we're just building triangle foundations out towards the opening along the side, but we really want to make sure that these ones are high as we get closer to the actual opening itself. Again, we have a decision to make here of where we want to actually start our door path, but just like the other side, it doesn't matter as much. We just want to make sure we can do this cheaply right now because we can always add on honeycomb to the outside, building further out of the opening. As you can see here, our forward set of foundations are going to be too far out and I'd have to build a lot more walls to actually seal it, so I decided to come one triangle foundation in for where I start my doors. I like to place my door opening along one of the walls, whichever is more convenient, and then similarly to the other side, we want to make sure that we can seal off the rest of the front entrance with just 2 walls worth of height. After we get all the outward twig upgraded and doors placed down, we'll be completely sealed on this side as well, and we can start relaxing in our new secure base. At this point, the base is now functional and we can actually start to live out of it. The next stage of this build is twigging out the entire inside. For this section, I like to start low on one side and get the foundations as far across on the other while being high. That gives me as much area on the same level as possible, but this may vary for you because the god rocks are on different slopes depending on where yours spawns. For this section down here, we can keep the foundations low if we want the space to be functional, or we can move the foundations higher so that honeycombing down here will be cheaper in the future. Since we're back down here, we can upgrade all of this to sheet metal and add another layer of honeycomb. When you actually build this base yourself, you can do this when you want to kind of match the door path, or whenever you feel like to be as secure as possible. When you're honeycombing here, make sure not to forget about the vertical space, There's a chance that if the opening is high enough that they could shoot rockets in and actually start splashing walls behind your external-most layer of honeycomb. With our back wall now all sheet metal, we're going to head to the door path and start upgrading this wall as well. After that, we can head back inside and start putting down door frames to add garage doors to our door path as we get them. From here on out, I'm going to be upgrading in sheet metal, but feel free to use stone instead if that's convenient for you at the time. The next part is why it's so important that our door path foundations were high. We're going to put in 2 low foundations surrounded on all sides by high foundations. Once we build out our door path around these 2 low foundations, put a half wall in between the 2 low foundations, and then a full wall on top. Afterwards, you can demolish the half wall. With that placed down, go ahead and upgrade everything else around it. We can place a half wall and a floor back down, and now we've got a functioning bunker along our door path. With both openings honeycombed and upgraded to sheet metal, our base already costs 16 rockets to raid. And all you have to do to open the bunker is break that twig half wall from the inside. The amazing part about this base is we can just repeat the pattern with the door path and add more bunkers and doors as we want, snaking around. Over on this side, we can keep adding layers of honeycomb to keep pace with our door path. Like I said earlier, another advantage of this base is that we can go on the outside and keep adding layers of honeycomb there as well. Like I said at the start of the video, this base is insanely cheap for the space and the security that you get along with it. So what can we do with that space? We can create enormous loot rooms, we can farm down here, or we could just vibe on the dance floor. All in our God Rock bunker. Now that the bunker is finished, I can show you how we built that sky fortress from the intro. Keep in mind that you don't need to finish the bunker completely before we start working on the base up top, and in fact I'd recommend that you kind of do them in tandem. So now that we've climbed our way to the top of the God Rock, you're going to see that this surface is at a pretty wicked angle. But there is a trick we can use to consistently get a good set of foundations down up here. We're going to come back down to the low edge facing the slope and look for 2 specific markings. The first mark is a dark spot along the smooth edge of the rock, and the second mark is a small spot where the cracks converge right at the top of this small ledge. We're going to place a square foundation with the right leg on the bottom edge of the first mark and the left leg just above the second mark. Once you put the square down, we're going to build a few more foundations off of it to test and make sure that we can get the footprint down that we need. We placed the first foundation a little bit too high, but it's not a big deal. It only takes about 200 wood per attempt, and it's a small price to pay to make sure that you have everything that you need. Based on the issues I had placing the last foundations, I can readjust, so I'm starting this one a little bit lower. If you're trying to build this base for yourself, I recommend pausing the video here and using this image as a reference so that you can tab back and forth to make sure that you've got the perfect placement, because with this foundation I was able to place all of the other foundations that I needed alongside it. The only foundation heights that matter here are the 3 triangles we placed a half floor above our 2 square foundations. If they're too stubborn to get down, one or both of the last 2 triangles I'm placing here can be skipped and we can still build the rest of the base. But this overhead shot shows the ideal footprint, and once we have it down, we can place a TC and continue on with the rest of the base. Make sure you break this middle triangle and we can start building out the rest of our 2x1. Place 2 half walls here and then break the bottom one. Up here we're going to build a spot for 2 double doors, and that'll act as the entrance to our base until we want to continue. Once everything's upgraded, we can put down our doors and pause here with our TC secure until we want to continue building out the base. At this point, we can build another triangle foundation bunker and completely seal in our 2x1. Once again, to open the bunker, all we need to do is break this twig half wall, and we can place an object down here to make it easier to jump up in the future. Continuing on, we're going to honeycomb around the entire base so that you're working off of a honeycomb 2x1 to build the second floor. Keep working around the outside of your base to make sure that none of those 2x1 walls are exposed. And then if you can get a third triangle foundation in between these 2 down here, great. If not, it's not a big deal. From this side, we're going to build our door path up to the second floor. After finishing our door path, we can continue building out the rest of the second floor. I like to honeycomb above the bunker and then build the 2 triangles next to it into a 4-box loot room. We can build our jump up over on this side of the base so as to be further away from the door that leads down into the core. These single triangles here are open so that you can throw down either lockers or furnaces depending on what your base needs. With all the construction done and everything upgraded, we can go ahead and throw down our deployables, and so we've got our second floor completely finished, which means we can start working more vertically on the base. We can build another spot for a door here and start working on our third floor. Just make sure that as you're going along with this base, you're adding door frames and doors wherever you can for maximum security. Our third floor is going to act as our open core, and to build it, you're going to build square floors off of the triangles that sit at either end of the 2x1. Then we can fill in the gaps with triangles. Now build walls all along the outside edge. The next thing you'll do is build floating triangle floors a half wall up along each of the long edges of your open core. Fill in all the squares that you built with a floor a half wall up. While you're doing this, you can build the floors above your head that will act as the roof to your open core. Then with a little bit of editing magic, we can get all of this upgraded. I'd recommend building another door up top before you get too much further along with your open core, since it's where you'll be storing the majority of your loot. Now that we've got doors placed down and a little extra safety, we can go ahead and start working on box placement. We'll place 4 boxes on these triangles. You'll have to jump to place the top one, but it's not too hard. Then you can place 4 boxes in the square loot rooms that we made, and then repeat for the other triangle and 3 remaining squares. I like to place a workbench here opposite the jump up, and with that you've got a 24 box open core. Now that our open core is completely finished, we can start working on the 4th floor that'll act as our shooting floor. On the middle of the long edge of the base, you'll put a triangle floor and a square floor out, along with the door frame to act as a peek down. To create a peek down on the short edge of the base, all you need to do is put a single square floor out, but you want to make sure it's on the left square so that we can put a door frame on the right one. From this point we can fast forward a little bit because all you're going to do is place windows along all of the outside walls. Even though we're only 4 floors up, because we started by building on top of the God Rock, it's like we're actually almost 10 floors up. So these peek downs on the base are insanely strong for looking straight down at anybody who might be camping you. Beyond that, you can build out the shooting floor with space for beds and lockers, but it's entirely up to you. I encourage to add on whatever works best for you and your group. The shooting floor will be the last full floor of our base. Up here, we're just going to finish building out the roof. Build square roofs off of the square floors and triangle roofs off of the triangle floors to completely seal in your roof. If instead you also want to have peaks on your roof, all you need to do is replace the triangle roofs with square roofs all the way around. With that, the core construction of our base is done, and I can show you a few other cool placements I like. The first one is in the core. As long as we've placed our TC correctly, we can upgrade this wall to sheet metal, rotate it, and place 2 large batteries side by side. Since the batteries and bunker are in here alongside the TC, we really want to make sure this area is secure. So upgrade everything to sheet metal and you'll still be able to fit 6 bags in here and seal the bunker. Because we can only place a pretty small footprint up top, we really want to make sure that all of our honeycomb is as upgraded as we can make it. So by upgrading all of this outside here to sheet metal, we can really guarantee the safety of our base. I recommend placing a few ladders here to be able to get in, but with that we've completed our sky fortress. Now, in addition to the vault you have below, you have an absolute monument to the sky above to operate and live out of like a Chad. But that lifestyle draws attention, and we need a way for our loot to survive that attention. I'm going to show you how to make it so that the second your base up top starts to get raided, all your loot is automatically pumped down into the vault. To start off, we're going to put storage monitors on all 24 of our boxes in the open core. Then we need to place down 12 industrial combiners. Place the industrial conveyor beneath them, and then it's time to start piping all of our boxes into our industrial combiners. You want to think of this process as condensing all of our pipes. So 24 boxes goes into 8 combiners, 8 combiners goes into 3 combiners, and then 3 combiners goes into 1 combiner, so that we've just got one output. This diagram should help explain what I'm saying. Once we're done with all that condensing, we can connect the output from the last combiner to the input of our conveyor. Then we're going to power our conveyor and start piping all the way down into the Godrock bunker. To make it all the way down into the bunker, you're going to need to add splitters or combiners along the way to extend the length of the pipe. These components are critical to the circuit and pretty fragile, so make sure you protect them. In order to pipe all the way into the bunker, even with the doors sealed, we're going to need to leave one of the edges open with a space large enough for the pipe to fit through, but not so big that a person could fit through. Then we can put windows in the way and feed the pipe along there to get into the core. Leaving this edge open should allow loot to pass through, but not a person, so it shouldn't make our base any weaker. With the pipe fed through the edge, we can go ahead and continue on towards the boxes and put storage adapters on all of them. Once they all have storage adapters on them, we can connect them with the pipe input to output all the way through. For some extra added safety, we can put windows on the frames that we placed. Coming back to the open core in the topside base, we're going to place an electrical branch and a seismic sensor somewhere central to our base. Then, over by the conveyor, we're going to place another branch, a smart switch, and an OR switch. We can connect the pass-through from our industrial conveyor to the power in of our first branch, then the branch out from that first branch to the power in of the seismic sensor. After that, connect the power out from your seismic sensor to your first input of your OR switch. Then we're going to connect the power out from our first electrical branch to the power in of our second. Connect the branch out from the second branch to the power in of the smart switch, and then the power out of the smart switch to your open input for your OR switch. Next, we're going to connect the power out from our OR switch to the turn on of our industrial conveyor, and connect the filter fail of your industrial conveyor to the turn off of the industrial conveyor. So with everything wired together, when the seismic sensor or smart switch are activated, they will start sending all of the loot in your open core boxes down into the bunker underneath the Godrock. You can see when we hit the switch, the loot starts getting pumped down, and then once the boxes are all empty, it'll automatically turn itself off. I like to set the seismic sensor range to 15 meters, that way I can guarantee that if my base is getting raided, all the loot's going to get pumped down automatically with plenty of time remaining. But I wouldn't recommend going beneath 5 meters, because then things might not start getting piped out before they're already in the open core. As you can see here, shooting a rocket at the jump up is plenty close enough to activate the seismic sensor, and we can guarantee that all the loot's going to get sent down into the vault before the raiders have a chance to get their hands on it. Now this is great, but what if you've defended and want to send your loot back up? Well, we can do that too. We'll start by placing an industrial conveyor down in the vault. Then connect the output of the last box that you piped together to the input of that conveyor. Then we're going to need to pipe the output from this conveyor all the way back up to the open core of the Sky Fortress. Put a storage adapter on a drop box and then connect the pipe from below to the input of that storage adapter. Coming back down, we're going to put an electrical branch and a smart switch on the wall beneath our conveyor. Then once our branch is connected, we can connect the branch out to the input of the smart switch and the output of the smart switch to the turn on of the conveyor. Also, don't forget to connect the power out of the branch to the power in of the conveyor, and connect the filter fail of the conveyor to the turn off of the conveyor. Now with this setup, we can test it by throwing a few items in these boxes, and then when we go upstairs, we'll be able to check that they're in that drop box we connected this to. Everything will get pumped into this one box, so my recommendation is to have a filtered drop box system that you can put all of the loot into this box and then it'll distribute back out where it's supposed to be in the open core. I have another video on that I'll link here. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and good luck finding your God Rock.